For a century, the flow of oil has determined the winners and losers of the global order. It created the Petrodollar-funded empires and launched countless wars. But the world is hurtling towards a technological tipping point that promises to end the age of fossil fuels, fusion energy. Unlike fission, which creates toxic waste and carries the risk of meltdown, fusion promises clean, limitless power, effectively ending resource dependency forever. This is the holy grail of physics and the ultimate strategic prize. The nation that masters fusion first doesn't just get cheap electricity, it gains a military, economic, and geopolitical advantage so vast it could rewrite the global power structure. This is the newest, highest-stakes technological race, pitting the West led by the US and its European partners in massive international projects against the centralized, focused might of China and Russia. The US approach is primarily decentralized, driven by private startups and university research. While scientifically groundbreaking, it is fractured and often slow. China and Russia, however, view fusion as a matter of national destiny. They pour immense state-backed capital into centralized megaprojects, operating with a speed and secrecy that the West can only watch. The stakes are unimaginable. If the US and its allies win the fusion race, they secure energy independence forever, stabilizing their economies and cementing their technological dominance. If China or Russia achieves the breakthrough first, the tables are instantly turned. Fusion energy can power advanced directed energy weapons, provide limitless fuel for space exploration, and completely insulate their economies from Western sanctions. The winner takes all. The technological gap is measured not just in dollars, but in the future freedom of billions. The breakthrough doesn't happen with a government announcement. It hits the world like an economic earthquake. A secretive state-run lab in Russia or China announces that they have achieved energy gain, the critical moment where a fusion reactor produces more energy than it consumes, and they have done so sustainably. The world is plunged into shock. Years of collective Western effort have been instantly rendered irrelevant by a rival's solitary, state-directed success. The immediate geopolitical fallout is devastating. The price of oil and natural gas, the currency of Russia, and the power of the Middle East plummets to near zero, destabilizing every oil-producing nation overnight. The petrodollar itself, the foundation of US financial supremacy, begins to crumble. For the first time, a US president is faced with a crisis not of scarcity, but of obsolete. The entire Western economic playbook is instantly thrown into the dustbin. The military implications are equally terrifying. Fusion-powered submarines, capable of running silently and submerged indefinitely, become a reality. Advanced electromagnetic railguns and directed energy weapons, once fantasy, are now feasible, powered by limitless energy sources. China or Russia, now masters of this technology, gain an unassailable strategic advantage, capable of deploying superior military hardware that the West cannot match because it is still tethered to traditional, limited power sources. The US finds itself in an impossible red zone trap. They cannot simply demand the technology. Fusion is the ultimate state secret. They must engage in a desperate, years-long scramble to recreate the technology, knowing that the rival has a permanent head start. The US is suddenly fighting a technological war from a position of profound weakness, relying on old, dirty energy sources while its rivals sail into a new, clean, and dominant future. The greatest strategic loss of the 21st century has been delivered by a scientific paper. The collapse of the global fossil fuel market triggers a new era of instability and geopolitical realignment. Nations that invested heavily in oil, from Saudi Arabia to Venezuela, see their economic foundations crumble, leading to humanitarian and political crises that demand US intervention. Simultaneously, China and Russia, now the sole masters of clean, limitless fusion power, use the technology not to liberate the world, but to establish a new energy-based authoritarian order. They offer fusion power to allied nations, but with conditions. The energy comes coupled with political compliance, strict trade agreements favoring the East, and a reliance on Chinese-Russian infrastructure, effectively creating a new form of technological energy colonialism. The developing world flocks to this new source, sacrificing democratic ideals for guaranteed power, leaving the US isolated and its allies dependent on a rival's energy generosity. The ideological battle is lost because the competing product is simply better. This forces the US to undergo a wrenching, costly strategic pivot. It must embark on a massive long-term national project to rapidly accelerate its own private fusion research, demanding collaboration from its most advanced allies, and pouring resources into non-fusion alternatives just to stay relevant. The ultimate lesson of the fusion war is that energy supremacy is power supremacy. The age of resource dependency is over, but it has been replaced by a much more terrifying reality: the dependence on a rival's technological mastery. The world has traded oil wars for an energy war with an exponentially higher strategic cost.